I, female, 34, have been married to my husband Nathan, male, 36, for 7 years. We met in grad school when I was getting my master's in education and he was finishing his MBA. Nathan's best friend Spencer, male, 35, has been in our lives since before I met Nathan. They were fraternity brothers in college and have this whole brotherhood bond thing that's survived everything. Job changes, moves, relationships, you name it. When I first met Spencer, I actually really liked him. He was funny, outgoing, and seemed like a good guy. He even helped Nathan plan our proposal at the botanical gardens where we had our first date. I thought Nathan was lucky to have such a supportive friend. But things started to change after we got married. It was so gradual, I didn't even notice at first. Spencer would make these little comments that seemed off. Nothing I could really pin down. Just compliments that went on a little too long, or jokes with these weird sexual undertones. I brushed it off as just his sense of humor. Over the past 5 years, though, it's gotten so much worse. The comments have become more explicit and uncomfortable, but Spencer is freaking smart about it. He always makes sure Nathan isn't within earshot, like when Nathan's grilling at Bay Q's, or taking a phone call, or getting drinks from another room. He always knows when my husband isn't around, and the worst part is he always plays it off as just joking around if I object. So I end up looking like I'm overreacting or can't take a joke. I'm honestly not a confrontational person, at all. I hate creating problems and usually just let things slide to keep the peace. But I've been getting so resentful and angry about Spencer's behavior and everyone who just lets it happen, which I guess makes me a hypocrite since I've been letting it happen too. About 6 months ago, I finally worked up the courage to confront Spencer directly at our friend's housewarming party. Nathan was outside helping set up the new fire pit, and Spencer made a comment about how my dress made my body look and winked at me. So I pulled him aside to the hallway near the bathroom and told him his sexual comments make me uncomfortable. He laughed. He actually laughed and told me I was too sensitive and needed to lighten up. I gave him specific examples of inappropriate things he said over the years. He just shrugged and said I was misinterpreting his friendly banter and that it was all in good fun. I told him very clearly that I wanted the comments to stop. He rolled his eyes and said in a condescending tone that he'd watch what he says around me. Then he immediately went back to the party like nothing happened. A few minutes later, I saw him whispering to one of his friends while looking my way. They both laughed while staring at me, and I felt so humiliated, like I was the punchline of some joke. I've tried talking to Nathan about it multiple times, but he always dismisses my concerns, saying that's just how Spencer jokes, or he doesn't mean anything by it, or I'm taking it too seriously. It hurts so much that my husband doesn't seem to care about how uncomfortable his best friend makes me feel. Although, maybe Nathan just can't imagine his lifelong friend being such a creep. I don't know. The breaking point happened last weekend at our friends Wesley and Donna's dinner party. I was in the kitchen helping Donna with dessert when Spencer came in to get more ice. There was plenty of ice in the bucket outside. Nathan was in the living room, deep in conversation about some work thing. Spencer cornered me by the fridge and told me he thinks about me when he's with his fiancée Molly and asked if I ever thought about him when I was with Nathan. I was literally speechless. He was standing so close I could smell the whiskey on his breath. Not that he was drunk, he'd only had 2 drinks. Donna came back in and he immediately switched to talking about the hockey game like nothing happened. I had to go to the bathroom and splash water on my face because I felt so gross. I realized in that moment that without evidence, no one would ever believe how bad Spencer's behavior has gotten. It would always be my word against his, and he's so good at playing the just joking card. So I've made a decision. I'm going to start recording conversations at social gatherings. I know it's morally questionable, and maybe even a gray area legally. I should look into that. But I'm desperate. I've spent years being dismissed about this. Oh, and Spencer recently got engaged to Molly, female, 31, after dating for 2 years. She's super sweet and kind of naive. They're having their engagement party next month at this restaurant downtown. I feel terrible for her because I doubt I'm the only woman Spencer acts this way with. I'm literally shaking writing all this out. Am I overreacting? Is recording conversations taking things too far? I just don't know what else to do at this point. Now for the first update. So a lot has happened since my last post. First, I want to say thank you to everyone who commented and messaged me. For those asking, yes, I ended up going through with the recording plan. I actually looked up the laws in my state first, unlike what some commenters assumed, lol, and found out we're a one-party consent state, which means as long as I'm part of the conversation, I can legally record it without telling the other person. So at least I'm not breaking any laws, even if it still feels kind of weird morally. I don't know. Over the past month, I've been basically collecting evidence at every social thing we've gone to. It's been exhausting, honestly. Like I'm constantly on edge, waiting for Spencer to say something inappropriate so I can catch it, but also dreading when he actually does, if that makes sense. I've managed to get recordings from 5 different get-togethers so far. A barbecue we hosted at our place. Spencer cornered me in the kitchen while Nathan was grilling. This bowling night our friend group does monthly. A dinner for my friend Jess's birthday. Wesley and Donna's housewarming. Just hanging out at this bar downtown last weekend. And listening back to these recordings has been really eye-opening and disturbing. I knew Spencer was being inappropriate, but hearing it all isolated like this, it's way worse than I even remembered. The things he says when Nathan isn't around are just, Also, sorry for the long post. There's just a lot to update about. At the barbecue, Spencer told me that if Nathan goes out of town for work again, I should invite him over, and he'd show me attention in ways Nathan neglects. When I told him that was inappropriate, he just laughed and said, I think about it too. I wanted to throw up. At bowling, he kept making these jokes about how good I must be with my hands and how he'd let me handle his balls anytime, and kept going on about how my jeans fit me. Like specific comments about my body that were just disgusting. Probably the worst was at the bar last weekend, where he started comparing me to Molly, his fiancée, saying Molly's hot, but doesn't have my curves, and that she's still learning things in bed. He bet I already know. Who says that about their fiancé to another woman, especially their best friend's wife? To make everything more complicated, I've been dealing with my mom's hip replacement too. She had surgery about 6 weeks ago, and I've been driving to her place like 3 times a week to help her with exercises and just basic stuff around the house. She lives about 40 minutes away, so it's been a lot. My dad left when I was 7, so it's always just been me and Mom. She basically taught me that women have to stand up for themselves because no one else will do it for you. All this while trying to seem normal around Nathan, who still doesn't fully get why Spencer bothers me so much. It's just a lot. Anyway, I ended up having coffee with Molly last week to discuss engagement party details. That was her reason for inviting me. She's so excited about marrying Spencer. It actually made me feel sick. She was showing me all these Pinterest boards for the wedding and talking about how marriage is forever and how she's found her soulmate. I sat there the whole time thinking about the stuff Spencer's been saying to me behind her back. Part of me was like, I need to protect her from this asshole. But another part was wondering if exposing Spencer would just hurt her more. Like, would I be the bad guy for blowing up her happiness? But then I think about her potentially marrying this creep, and it seems worse to say nothing. I honestly don't know what the right thing to do is. And before anyone says, tell her privately, Spencer would just deny everything and make me look like the crazy jealous one trying to ruin things. That's why I need actual proof. I'm honestly not a vengeful person. Ask anyone who knows me. But I've spent the last few days putting together all the worst clips from my recordings into one file. I had to Google how to edit audio and everything. It's 3 minutes and 42 seconds long and has the absolutely clearest examples of his behavior. There's no way anyone could listen to this and think I'm misinterpreting or overreacting. But something happened at dinner 2 nights ago that was the final straw. We were at this Italian place with friends, and when Nathan got up to go to the bathroom, Spencer immediately moved to sit next to me and put his hand on my thigh under the table. Not accidentally, he actually squeezed my thigh. I moved his hand away and shifted my chair over. He leaned in and told me, Nathan doesn't need to know how much I enjoy his attention. I clearly told him I don't enjoy anything about how he acts toward me, and he laughed and said playing hard to get is sexy. I was so angry, I told him I was going to tell Nathan about him touching me, and he just smirked and said it would be my word against his, as usual. Then he mentioned he could make things very uncomfortable for Nathan at work if I started causing problems. That's when it hit me that he feels completely untouchable. He's been using his friendship with Nathan as a shield this whole time. And Nathan is so loyal to him because Spencer helped him through his parents' really awful divorce in college. So Nathan has this blind spot when it comes to Spencer. Later that night, I tried again to talk to Nathan about Spencer. I told him Spencer said really inappropriate things to me at dinner, and Nathan just sighed and said he was sure Spencer was just joking around and changed the subject. It's like he refuses to even consider that his best friend might actually be a creep. Then yesterday, we got the formal invitation to Spencer and Molly's engagement party that's happening tomorrow evening. It mentions there will be time for toasts and tributes to the couple. There's going to be a proper sound system for speeches and everything. I confirmed with our mutual friend who's helping plan it. And that's when I decided what I'm going to do. I'm going to ask to make a toast, and then I'm going to play the audio compilation. My friend Donna from work thinks I'm making a huge mistake. She told me I'm going to blow up not just Spencer's relationship, but possibly my own marriage and all our friendships. And maybe she's right. But what's the alternative? Let Spencer keep harassing me. Let Molly marry this guy without knowing who he really is. Oh, and I forgot to mention, the night Nathan was on that business trip to Chicago last month, Spencer texted me asking if I needed company since Nathan's hotel had a king bed, but mine was empty. I didn't respond, but I added that to my compilation too. So yeah, the engagement party is tomorrow night. I have the audio file saved on my phone. I've practiced connecting to Bluetooth speakers. I've practiced what I'm going to say when I ask to make a toast. But I'm also freaking out. Am I making a terrible mistake? Am I going to regret this? Or am I finally standing up for myself after years of this treatment? I honestly don't know. I just know I can't take this anymore. Now for the second update. I played the recordings of my husband's best friend sexually harassing me at his engagement party. So it's been about 3 days since Spencer and Molly's engagement party. And wow, a lot has happened. Like, my entire life has basically exploded. First, thank you to everyone who commented on my last post. Reading through all your perspectives honestly helped me feel less crazy about my decision, though I still had so many doubts right up until the moment I actually did it. The night before the engagement party, I barely slept at all. I kept going back and forth about whether I should really go through with it. Like, 1 minute I was totally convinced it was the right thing to do, and the next I was thinking I must be insane to even consider it. I think I got maybe 2 hours of actual sleep. I was a complete mess. Getting ready for the party was so stressful. I changed outfits like 4 times because I was overthinking everything. I finally settled on this navy blue dress that's pretty conservative, high neckline, below the knee, because I was paranoid someone might try to say I was dressed provocatively or something. I don't know why my brain went there, but I was trying to avoid any possible criticism about my appearance. Nathan kept asking if I was okay during the ride because I was being so quiet. I just told him I had a headache, which wasn't even a lie because I was so anxious my head was pounding. He offered to turn around and go home, but I said no. We got to the restaurant around 7. It was this really nice Italian place with a private event room in the back. They had a little stage area set up with a microphone for speeches later. There were probably like 60 people there. When we first walked in, Molly ran over and gave me this big hug and was like, "I'm so happy you're here. You've become such a good friend to me." And I felt like such a horrible person in that moment. She was so happy and excited. But then I reminded myself what Spencer had been doing behind her back, and I tried to focus on that instead of my guilt. Spencer was being his usual charming self, attentive to Molly when people were watching, but every time she was distracted talking to someone else, he'd look over at me with this knowing smirk. It made me feel so gross. The first hour was just mingling and appetizer. I basically avoided Spencer as much as possible and just made small talk with other people. I kept checking the time on my phone every 2 minutes. Nathan was off talking to some guys from Spencer's work that he knew, so I was on my own most of the time. After dinner, which I barely touched because my stomach was in knots, Spencer's brother started setting up the microphone for toasts. I kept telling myself I was completely justified in what I was about to do, but at the same time, I felt physically sick. My heart was beating so fast, I could feel it in my throat. Spencer's parents gave the first toast, telling embarrassing stories about him as a kid and saying how happy they were to welcome Molly to their family. Then Molly's dad gave this really emotional speech about how he was entrusting his daughter to Spencer's care and how he knew Spencer would always protect her and treat her right. That one almost made me change my mind. After a few more family members spoke, Spencer's brother invited anyone else who wanted to say something about the couple to come up. A couple of Spencer's frat brothers told some cleaned-up college stories. And then I raised my hand. Spencer's brother nodded at me, and I walked up to the microphone. My legs felt like jelly. I literally don't think I've ever been so nervous in my entire life. I started by saying I wanted everyone to know the real Spencer. I saw Spencer's expression change from confusion to horror as I pulled out my phone. I think that's when he realized what was about to happen. I connected my phone to the sound system using the aux cable that was already there for music. My hands were shaking so bad, I almost dropped my phone. And then I pressed play. The first clip was from the barbecue at our house, where Spencer said if Nathan goes out of town again, I should invite him over, and he'd show me attention in ways Nathan neglects. His voice was so clear through the speakers, there was no mistaking it was him. The entire room went completely silent. People's expressions went from confused to shocked. Then came the clip where Spencer compared me to Molly, saying Molly was hot but doesn't have your curves, and that she's still learning things in bed. I bet you already know. I looked at Molly when this played, and her face just crumpled. She looked completely devastated. Spencer tried to lunge toward me, but Nathan had stood up and basically blocked him. Spencer started yelling that I was taking everything out of context and that the recordings were manipulated. Then the clip where Spencer texted me asking if I wanted company while Nathan was on his business trip played. Molly's dad stood up, his face bright red with anger. I stopped the recording after about 3 minutes total. I just said quietly, "This is who he really is," and stepped away from the microphone. Absolute chaos erupted. Molly ran out of the room crying with her mom following her room. Spencer was alternating between trying to explain to Molly's dad and shouting at me. Nathan was just standing there looking completely stunned. People were whispering and some were gathering their things to leave. It was intense. I made brief eye contact with Molly's mom as she followed Molly out, and she gave me this small nod. I grabbed my purse and left pretty quickly after that. Nathan followed me out and we got an Uber home. The ride was completely silent for like the first 10 minutes. Then Nathan finally asked, "Do you have more recordings?" When we got home, I played some of the unedited recordings for him. He just sat there listening with this expression I can't even describe, like he was finally seeing Spencer for who he really was after all these years. He kept saying, "I'm so sorry I didn't believe you," over and over. We talked until like 2 a.m. I was completely exhausted and finally fell asleep with my phone on Do Not Disturb. When I woke up around 9, Nathan had already left for a work meeting he couldn't reschedule. I checked my phone and had 18 missed calls and like a million text messages. 7 calls from Spencer, each voicemail more angry than the last, threatening legal action. 5 from Nathan checking if I was okay after he left. 2 tearful voicemails from Molly. The rest from various friends who were at the party. I had a text from Molly saying she'd called off the engagement after confronting Spencer about the recordings. He apparently tried to deny it at first, but when she pressed him, he admitted some of it, but claimed I had twisted things and taken them out of context. She didn't believe him. The fallout over the past few days has been complicated. Spencer has been trying to do damage control by telling people I edited the recordings because I'm jealous or something. But what's really surprising is that after I came forward, 3 other women from our social circle have contacted me saying Spencer made similar comments to them, but they were too uncomfortable to say anything. I met Molly for coffee yesterday. It was really emotional. She told me that after hearing the recordings, she started questioning Spencer about other things she'd been suspicious about but had ignored. Turns out there were a lot of red flags she'd been dismissing. She thanked me for preventing her from marrying him, even though she's obviously devastated. Things with Nathan we're working through it. He feels incredibly guilty for dismissing my concerns for so long. He keeps apologizing and saying he should have trusted me. We're definitely in a healing phase, and I think our relationship will actually be stronger after this. But it's going to take time. Our friend group has basically fractured. Some people have completely cut ties with me and Nathan, saying I humiliated Spencer publicly when I could have handled it privately. Others have quietly told me they support what I did. I heard through a mutual friend that Spencer's boss found out about what happened and he's on some kind of probation at work. I have so many mixed emotions about everything. Part of me feels satisfied that Spencer finally faced consequences after years of harassment. Part of me regrets doing it so publicly. I'm grateful that Nathan finally understands and believes me, and I've actually developed a real friendship with Molly through all this. Was my approach dramatic? Yeah, definitely. But after years of being harassed and not believed, I finally feel so good, and that freedom is worth it.